and they're getting back to Wisconsin roots, which will probably be a breath of fresh air considering the lunacy that's going to come out of the other side.
Exactly.
Assuming that Francesca Hung or Mandela Barnes is the nominee. Now, again, we're a long way away. The Democrats seem to be doubling down on crazy.
You're watching On the Issues with Chris and Mike, a speakeasy conversation brought to you by CooleyConservatives.com.
All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of On the Issues with Chris and Mike. Here we go again with another month of really just nothing going on at all, right, Mike?
Right, it's always quiet. Yeah, in Wisconsin, political scene is always quiet.
Yeah, pretty boring around here.
Yeah.
But actually, just keeping up with all of it, it's
tough.
It is overwhelming.
Yeah.
I get up at 5 a.m. and spend 2 hours just figuring out what happened overnight.
Yeah.
Then I get my workout in and I go to work all day. And then we have these conversations late in the day. So it worked out okay.
Yeah, that's good. That's very good. Yeah.
The first topic that I wanted to talk about today, Memorial Day.
Yes.
Here we are recording the day after Memorial Day. How'd you end up spending the day?
I golfed some. I watched some. Actually, I've gotten into this new series, what is it called? Road Warriors or something like that. I can't remember the name.
Not familiar with that one.
It's kind of a dramatization of the SAS, the British Secret Service.
Interesting.
And their time in World War II. So my wife and I are watching that. And so I watched a few episodes of that. And it was a nice, beautiful day. So enjoyed it.
Yeah, we had a great day. It was, since it was such a nice day, we took advantage of it and worked on some landscaping that Diane's been wanting to do.
Oh, good.
around the house. So that it worked out nice. In addition to that, of course, observing just the whole idea of Memorial Day. I kicked myself. I didn't get a chance to get to any of the actual ceremonies, but I did sit down and watch Saving Private Ryan. It's something I try to do every Memorial Day weekend, just to remind of all the sacrifice, and God bless all the people. But this podcast, the last podcast, I talked about the men that my dad served with, the ones who didn't return from duty. And so that was actually pretty incredible. Some of the stories from my dad's unit when he was in Vietnam.
Yeah, I only needed to see Saving Private Ryan once. That affected me a lot.
It's hard to watch.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. It's hard to watch.
And it's like a movie, I mean, it wasn't real. It's, the real life must have been incredible. I mean, they're the greatest generation for a good reason.
Right.
And I shudder to think what this generation is concerned about, 11 weeks into a war. So I don't know. It is unfortunate dichotomy between what our grandparents went through and what they fought and what they protected and delivered, and what we're willing to do and give up. And you can't compare the two.
Well, and it is interesting that you mention it that way, because one of the stories that I do have today is a debate between what I'm calling lunatic Democrats who want to run for the congressional seat. And that's one of the things they talk about, the suffering here back at home compared to us being in Iran or something.
Oh my.
I don't remember exactly how they were, but we can get to that one in a bit.
Okay.
That is,
I look forward to that.
Yeah.
It's
going to be interesting.
Whenever Democrats talk about foreign policy, I always get a little concerned.
My eyes roll constantly.
Yep. I'm sure.
It is interesting though.
Yeah.
But we'll jump to that a little bit. The other thing, like we were saying, like month after month, we go through this exercise of talking about national issues.
Yep.
A month ago, we were talking about an assassination attempt on the president, and that was at the White House Correspondents' Dinner.
Right.
Here we are again. This one, we don't, as you were just saying off air, may not be an assassination attempt. It might be more like what did you call it?
I call it suicide by cop.
Okay.
I mean, that's when people come out and they're just a little deranged, they have had enough, they're going to just howl at the moon, as it were. And so they take a couple pot shots to the White House and you end up dead. I mean, that's kind of the way it works. Who knows whether or not that's the thing. It's interesting as these pile up and we become more and more calloused to the fact that we have people
2 months in a row now
that are taking shots at either the president or the symbol of the presidency and the symbol of our country in the White House. It is, unfortunately, become so calloused to it. It is, of course, once again, the clear example of how different it would have been had it been Obama in the White House or Biden in the White House,
Yeah.
Clinton in the White House, and these had been happening. And the indictment that would have been on every Republican,
Oh, yeah.
every gun owner, every white person, every one of the things that the media would be going after. And this one was a day story, and we move on. It's no big deal.
Man, that is a really good point. It's like, it's sick that this has become an ho-hum
Right.
kind of story. But here we are again. And the other thing I was going to bring up is still no apologies from the mainstream media lunatics who keep calling the president a Nazi and keep inspiring these
Right.
kinds of acts of violence.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, we've dealt with this the entire time that Trump has been president, from the first term to the second term. They believe that their rhetoric can have no limit, that there are no consequences to that.
There's no accountability, no
No.
responsibility.
Right. No responsibility. We're not going to get accountability. I mean, who do you expect accountability
Fair.
from? Their voters? No. The media? No. I mean, we're not going to get it. But some responsibility from elected officials would be a breath of fresh air.
A little bit of maturity too would be nice.
Absolutely.
Because we talk about this so frequently. We on the conservative side of things, we know that we have to answer to a higher power.
Right.
And that keeps us grounded.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to lose ourselves in our Christian values in our politics. The other side does not have that. They do not have anything reining them in.
Yeah. Politics is their religion. So,
so nothing reins them in.
Right. Yeah. And we certainly see the fruits of that in the rhetoric, the actions of the AOC, the squad, all of the different, even going back. I mean, again, if you took account of the different instances that there has been of just inflammatory rhetoric from everybody from AOC to local Democrats to just deranged people out there, going back to 2016, even 2015 when Trump first got in. And I think before that, the rhetoric was ramping up, but nothing like we've seen. I mean, it's as though those who feel this disdain for this country, this hatred for Trump, this anger toward everybody, there's no governor on them anymore at all. There's no limit to what they can or need to say. Dan O'Donnell, who is somebody we both have listened to, he has the deranged lunatic of the day or some deranged liberal of the day or something like that. And it's every single day he's got a new one that he can come up with, that of people who are just unhinged, just completely lost it, and just have no limitation to what they want to and can say. And it's, there's actions that are going to come because of that. And we see people taking pot shots to the White House.
Yeah. And I know we've talked about this before too, the idea that we used to laugh at this kind of stuff,
right?
But it gets to the point we can't laugh this off anymore.
No.
These people are deranged lunatics, and they're in power, and they're trying to get more power.
Right.
And it is, look at this whole thing in Maine.
Yes.
My gosh, they don't even care that a literal Nazi is running in their party now.
Right. Yeah, as we talked about in the past, it doesn't really matter to the Democrats who it is, what it is.
They just want power.
They just want a power. They just want a Democrat there. And this guy is over the top. I mean, I can't imagine that he's going to win in Maine. He'll win the primary.
He's going to be on the ballot. He can win.
He'll win the primary, but I can't imagine that the people of Maine, who I think have a little more sense than this, would elect an avowed Nazi and just a deranged individual to the United States Senate. I mean, it's stunning, but it certainly could happen, and it's kind of the direction we're seeing our country going in certain pockets.
Yeah, it is. It is scary, is what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, we've talked about this over and over again, just the kind of moral decline that's going on.
Yeah.
And it gets accepted by the other side, and they just embrace their lunatics in order to get more power, whereas we will shun ours.
Yeah. It's beyond moral decline. I mean, moral decline we've seen for some time. We took prayer out of schools. We took, there was the Roe versus Wade. There was just a moral decline. What we're seeing now is a societal decline, where we as a society cannot coexist. We can't be in the same communities. We can't be on the same networks. We can't be in touch with each other. That societal decline that is being driven, I have to say 98% from the leftists of this country, is going to be something that if we don't bring it into check, if we don't figure out how to rein that in, it's going to do some serious damage to this country. And it's certainly something we've seen that is going on in Europe and damaging those countries one at a time quickly. And, England especially we're seeing the decline over there of society, not morals, and morals have declined for a long time. And each of us have our own that we have a Judeo-Christian ethic that we follow, and we all have morals that we live by. But generally, the simple 10 commandments, you shall not kill, you shall not steal, these are the type of things that are being disintegrated by the rhetoric and the actions that we see from the left.
Yeah, that's well said. It reminds me, was it Ben Shapiro, I think, who wrote a book about the decline of the Western civilization because of all this craziness that's happening?
Yeah.
Mostly, I think he was talking about the way Islamism and terrorism basically is kind of spreading around it. Just like you said, the UK, they got some serious problems because of all their open immigration policies that let these lunatics into their country.
Yeah, and then the laws that they changed to allow them to continue on with their practices of raping women. That's accepted practice.
They allow Sharia law and all that kind of stuff.
Right, it's stunning. Again, a disintegration of society, of the ability to live with each other. That is what we're seeing unveiling in Europe and what we're seeing in pockets here in the United States.
Pockets here in the U.S., and it's growing. I mean, what was it just outside of Houston or somewhere? There's an Islamist community that's supposed to is trying to get started there anyway, but it sounds like the Texas state law, they're
shutting it down.
Shut it down. Yeah.
You don't get to have your own laws in your little town.
Exactly. Sharia law is not compatible with the United States Constitution.
Not at all.
We have actual rights here.
Yep.
And Sharia law would respect zero of those rights.
Correct. And the idea that you can set up your own community and have your own laws would, there are people who would say, well, that is the ultimate First Amendment. That's the ultimate freedom. I'm like, no. It's when the Constitution is in place to allow for society, allow for cohabitation. When you have Sharia law and it's going to be something that is so diametrically opposed to everything that the Constitution stands for, it cannot abide. You cannot allow it to occur.
Yeah, you might as well just call it a confederacy and secede from the Union.
Right.
Because that's essentially what they would be doing at that point.
Or better yet, move back to the Middle East. I'm good with that.
Or go live in a culture where it's acceptable.
Right.
But in America, it's not.
That's correct.
No, that's well said. I'm glad we had that little conversation. I didn't even plan for that conversation.
When have we ever planned a conversation?
You know what? I'm glad you said that because that is so true. We're always winging it, folks.
Right.
We're just winging everything. You might probably know. Okay, here's the notes. Here are the notes I have. Only notes I took today are the timestamps of what I wanted to play from this clip that I have.
Good.
To make sure that I started on the right place. That's all the notes we have here, folks.
I was driving in thinking, I wonder what we'll talk about today.
It's right on. Yeah. Well, I mean, I get a concept of what's in the news, but everybody can watch the news. That's what we're going to talk about.
Exactly. That's right.
Awesome. All right. Well, and speaking of a clip that I wanted to share.
Yeah.
Let's jump into this. Convention highlights is the topic that I put down.
Yeah, I didn't get to go to the convention, so I'm anxious to hear what you have.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. You know what? I'll start with this because Tom Tiffany, for those of you who have never been to a convention, they have what they call these hospitality suites.
Yep.
So every candidate puts together their hospitality suite. It's basically just a room in the hotel where they promote their campaign. They try to come up with some fun way to gamify it, I guess you could say. Tom Tiffany did an amazing job. They decorated it like it was a supper club.
Yeah.
Like you were going out for Friday fish.
That's great.
And he was in the corner just carving off some prime rib for everybody. Got his chef's apron on and everything.
Yeah.
It was so cool. Wisconsin brandy old fashions served up. It's so much fun.
So when I was speaker and majority leader in the legislature, I worked with a woman by the name of Melanie Hubbard. She ran RAC, the Republican Assembly Campaign Committee. That's we're the group that tries to elect Republicans to the Assembly. She ran that. And she did it for a long time, even with Robin Voss. But I think recently retired and, has gone on to other things. She put that room together. That was her brainchild, and she
Oh,
did.
it was
So
awesome.
big kudos to Melanie Hubbard. Way to go, Mel. From what I understand, it was the hit of the convention.
It was amazing.
Yeah,
It
it's cool.
really, I mean, the way it was laid out perfectly, just like you felt like you were going into a supper club.
Yeah.
Well done.
Good for her.
Melanie, I'll have to remember that name.
Melanie Hubbard. Yep. Terrific woman.
Well done. Well, and again, I mean, the other highlights of the convention, the reason I think about that is because Tom Tiffany's speech was fantastic.
Yeah.
And everybody in the room was 100% behind endorsing him from the Republican Party.
That's great.
And it was so great to see that kind of unity in a room where you've been in there in the past. There's almost never that kind of unity with Republicans. We're very independently minded folks on the Republican side, and it was really nice to see everyone ready to go.
I understand Tommy still has it too.
He did 25 push-ups. He did 25. How old is he now?
84, I think. Yeah,
84. Okay.
Yep.
He did 25 push-ups right on stage. It was amazing.
It's awesome.
It was amazing. But anyway, the whole Tom Tiffany, the speech that he gave, and the way he did this speech, where he got the whole audience participating in it, then they rolled it into an ad, which I think was really well done. Let's take a look at this. I'm gonna share the screen.
I'm running for governor because I love Wisconsin, and I refuse to let it slip away to ruin. Madison politics smell a little bit like the barn. As a farm kid, I know how to clean up the bullshit manure. We're the kind of people that hold the door at our local Quick Trip. Our dairy fed America. Our timber built America. Our foundries armed America. I will not allow Minnesota's madness and Illinois' insanity to become Wisconsin's way of life. Do you think we should end the 400-year property tax increase on day one? Do you think we should not sell 1 acre of Wisconsin farmland to China? And are we going to win in November? The left has the money, they have the media allies, but we have something they don't. We have you. Let's send in the damn man this November and drain the Madison swamp.
That's good.
Yeah,
well done.
I'm very impressed with that. That speech was really, really well done.
Yeah.
And as I said, the entire audience, 100% of Republicans, fully endorsed him to be our next governor.
That's fantastic. I mean, not since, Scott Walker in his second term and Tommy Thompson in his second term have we seen that kind of unity. So it's huge. It helps. It helps a lot as you're moving in. You don't have to burn a lot of money now. I understand Will Martin also got the nomination, or I mean the endorsement.
Endorsement, yeah.
I think you're supporting the other guy.
David Varnum is my friend, but I'm open to having Will on the show as well sometime here.
Will's a great guy.
But he is a great guy, and I think he was very gracious in the endorsement that he received.
Yeah, good. Well, I think Tom, they're launching very well, and they're getting back to Wisconsin roots, which will probably be a breath of fresh air considering the lunacy that's going to come out of the other side.
Exactly.
Assuming that Francesca Hung or Mandela Barnes is the nominee. Now, again, we're a long way away. The Democrats seem to be doubling down on crazy, and I think you're going to talk a little bit about that with the third congressional Democrat district debate.
Yeah.
But and so we'll see whether or not they have the votes to. I mean, you don't need a lot when you have 7 candidates in a primary. You don't need a lot to win it.
Right.
So,
they're fractured quite a bit.
So Mandela or Francesca could easily put it together. If one of the two dropped out and endorsed the other, game over. I don't see that happening. I don't think that's likely. I think Mandela Barnes has taken over the lead a little bit as far as who is really going to emerge. When it comes right down to it and people start paying attention, they're like, oh yeah, I remember Mandela Barnes. I can't remember why. I think I voted for him once. So, he's
got the name recognition.
And who's this other woman? Francesca what? Yeah, they won't know. We'll see how how it all settles out. And then there's what I would call still your small in shrinking pockets of normal Democrats. We have a few around here who are like, oh my Lord, we can't do that. We got to have a Sarah Rodriguez, or we got to go with, somebody other than that. But I'm not sure there's going to be enough of them. So
Yeah,
we'll
good
see.
point. Well, and hat tip to Dan O'Donnell again, because he had a really good conversation about this. He was kind of doing the calculus around what I think he said CNN did some kind of report about Francesca Hong. And I mean, the way he said it is like, obviously this is coming from the Democrats.
Right.
This is not coming because we don't care what they do in their primary. That's their primary.
Absolutely. I plan to vote for Francesca.
A lot of people are.
Absolutely.
A lot of Republicans would love for Francesca to win.
You betcha. Go ahead and you betcha.
Exactly. Well said, sir. But that is the thing and I think Dan O'Donnell put it really well when he said, it'll be interesting to see if the Democrats come up with, it's Francesca and the not Francesca.
Yeah.
Are the others going to drop out and support the not Francesca? But they, as Dan O'Donnell put it in his program, they haven't decided who the not Francesca should be.
That's right.
It could be Kurt Bangstead. We don't know. They're all so lunatics.
I forgot Kirk was that guy's name just makes me laugh. He's such a goofball. But yeah, it's again, it's one of those things where we still laugh at those kind of people, and yet they're taken seriously by the other side. It's stunning to me.
It is stunning. That is the best word to use. It is stunning that they take it all so seriously.
Right. I don't know. I've lost all touch with reality. But anyway, we'll see how that comes out. When's our primary? August 11th?
August. I don't know what date.
Like yeah, second.
But
Tuesday.
It is August for sure.
Second Tuesday in August. So we're 2.5 months away. But it's not like a lot of people pay attention in June and July.
Exactly.
So
yeah, people are right now. They're talking about their graduations. Mm-hmm. Maybe they've got some weddings.
Yep.
You got Father's Day coming up. They got their vacations or summer vacations.
Right.
People are not thinking about politics right now.
Not at all.
So later, this is going to come up and smack people in the backside of the head.
It will. It will. All of a sudden, we'll wake up the next day and go, "We did what?"
And that, I'm with you. I think a lot of Republicans are probably going to vote for Francesca in that primary.
I think so. We'll see. Unless Mandela is the lead, I don't know. But and the question will be, well, what happens if they actually then win the general? I'm like, well, then we get what we deserve. it's again, you get the government you deserve. And if we are crazy enough to elect one of those two as governor of this state, as Tom said in his speech, he's not willing to watch it all crumble, but it will.
Well, and I think that just like you said, though, the only way that could happen is if a Tom Tiffany just stops the trajectory that he's on now. I don't see that happening. The trajectory that he's on now, where he's really embracing a lot of the common sense ideas, that's going to win it.
I love your optimism. I'm not sure it's founded in a lot of reality.
Okay.
Mainly because it is still Wisconsin. We still vote at the top of the ticket blue. We are not a purple state. We have big areas of red and huge, and then a few splotches of very deep blue.
Deep blue, yeah.
And Dane County, Madison will determine, whether or not they're going to be able to have enough votes. They need about 175,000 votes to come out of Dane County for their candidate, and if they get it, they win. I mean, that's basically what the number that they're at. So you add Milwaukee onto that, and it's almost impossible to overcome with the other 70 counties that we have out here. And of course, lately, you can add La Crosse to that too. La Crosse County is voting overwhelmingly blue at the top of the ticket. So despite all of our efforts, the people here have lost their minds as well. So,
well, that is a good point. And I think I'm glad you brought it up, because it does point out that there's a lot of hard work that a lot of us need to do in order to make sure we do win.
Yeah.
And it ultimately comes down to something that was talked about quite frequently, like at the grassroots workshops that they talked about.
Right.
If we get thousands of people doing onesie, twosie kinds of things in coordination, we could win this thing.
We could. Yeah.
But if there's only a dozen of us.
Let me put it this way, Chris. It's the second term for a president and the Republican Party's in control. That is always going to mean it's going to be a bad year.
We're already behind.
We're already behind. So if we have 1,000 people doing ones or twos, we have a slim chance of actually pulling this off. I'll just say that it's still
It's a
we're
good point.
still in the we're still a dark horse as far as
Yeah.
pulling it off. The Democrats are walking around very cocky for a good reason. I mean, all of the factors are pointing to anti-Trump, the deranged syndrome that's out there, the economy, all of the things that are kind of moving against the Republicans
Yeah.
could easily turn into a Democratic wave in November. And, we'll see whether or not we're willing to do that. But I am concerned right now as it sits that Tom is running a great campaign, a better campaign, I think, than I've seen in a long time. I'm not sure it's going to be enough.
Yeah. Yeah. We definitely got to keep an eye on it.
Mhm.
And I'm sure it's going to be at the top of our list every month.
No doubt.
Talk about where we are in
Yeah.
this
And
election
the amount of work
season.
that needs to be done.
But I mean, this election season is going to be a fascinating one.
Yeah.
I mean, for the people who are interested in this is fascinating to see the number of candidates on the Democrat side, to see everyone unite on the Republican side. This doesn't happen.
Right.
This is like some historic level stuff that's happening.
Agreed. Yeah. And while it's been for the last decade, it's been we've all been learning, it's been a learning curve as to how we should use social media, advertising, all that type of stuff. It's now in the norm. We all have now figured it out. So, the Republicans can find their people, the Democrats can find their
Yeah.
people, and we now know how to target them, how to turn them out, the message they want to hear. And Tom was right. I mean, Tom Tiffany was right. The Democrats have all the money, and it's all from out of state. That Reid Hoffman, one of Jeffrey Epstein's best buddies, is still the biggest contributor to the Wisconsin Democratic Party. You don't think that would be front page story if it were reversed? If it were a Republican that were giving that kind
Exactly.
of money? I mean, come on. So
if the tables were turned, it would be
Absolutely.
every top of the hour news every day at the
Right.
front page.
Yeah, the ad you just heard was brought to you by Jeffrey Epstein's buddy. That would be the story. So so you've got all of the money going over there. They've been able to capture all the Hollywood money. They've captured all the liberal money on both coasts. They will outspend Tom probably 4-1. And whether or not that's enough, we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Good point.
Yep.
Well, let's talk a little bit about some of the lunatics in the 3rd district.
Let's do. We have a couple.
This is, you know what? Let me pop open the news story.
All right.
This was a hat tip to WIZM News.
Okay.
And as they said it on the WIZMnews.com, they didn't list who the author was. Usually they list the author, but since there wasn't one, my guess is that it was probably the Democrat lapdog Rick Solem.
Yeah. Why does it sound?
Because it makes it sound very
Normal?
legitimate and normal. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So the way they wrote it, a U.S. House candidate forum for the Democrat primary in Wisconsin's 3rd district is scheduled for Tuesday evening, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Okay. That was the way they were kind of leaning up to
Yeah,
it.
sure.
So it was last week on Tuesday at 6:30 to 8 p.m. at Concordia Ballroom. Here's what they had to say.
I will be hearing this for the first time because oddly enough, I didn't listen to the.
So we're going to get your reaction
Right.
on camera,
Right.
hearing it for the first time.
Right.
All right, here we go. And playing.
We seem to be in a mess in several places around the world because of Donald Trump and his penchant for just running in and doing whatever he wants. So my first question is actually about Iran. We are apparently at war. We are at war with Iran for reasons that have not been adequately explained to me, at least. So my question is, once you're in Congress, what can you do about the Iranian conflict?
I just want to start by saying that no one voted for this, period. This administration campaigned on the idea that they would not involve ourselves in more forever wars, and that they would put the American people first, and they've actually done just the opposite. We've seen an increase in fertilizer
Rebecca
prices that
Cook
are having a
going
big
first.
impact on our farmers, an increase on diesel prices, but also an increase on gas prices really across the board, all because of this war of choice. I'm in favor of the U.S. pulling out of Iran. I do not support boots on the ground. The fact that we're involved in this war and how much our country is putting in isn't addressing the real issues that we're facing here at home. Increasing healthcare costs, impact tariffs have been having. People are being squeezed at their pocketbook all over the place, whether at the gas pump, the grocery store, being able to pay their mortgage or their rent and have a little bit of money left over. DVO, Derek Van Orden, he is in favor of the war in Iran in a pretty big way. In a recent Breitbart article, when asked about the war in Iran, he said it's fantastic. That's how he feels about how it's done to your bottom line, to your livelihood, to the livelihoods of people across this state and across this country. And I think it's wrong. And I would be in a strong favor of pulling out. I don't think that the way this war was executed was an incredible overreach of war powers by this administration.
So for the last year and 1 month, I've been traveling through
Emily
19
Burge, right?
counties of the 3rd Congressional
Could be.
District, and I go to
Emily
a lot of rural
Burge, I think is
communities.
her
I
name.
talk to a lot of
Yeah.
people from different political backgrounds. They come to my events. I was in Lafarge last week. They had and at Richland Center. So these are smaller communities. Yeah, 100 people show up in Lafarge, almost 80 people show up in Richland Center. But my point being is that people are showing up and they're upset about what's going on. And a lot of people bring up the Iran war. They do not want to be in these endless wars. Even people people voted for Trump are coming to my events and they're upset about this because Trump, like Derek Van Orden, might say one thing and do another, right? And then that's the opposite of integrity. And that's why I'm running, because these values, we need to bring integrity back to political office and elected officials. But people don't want to be in these endless wars. And I think about what makes a country strong. What makes the United States strong? It's making sure that people have access to health care, make sure they have housing and childcare, and make sure they have good paying jobs. It doesn't make us strong to go bomb countries and to kidnap leaders in the middle of the night. That does not make us strong. Not when people are suffering at home. And so again, it's an upside down of priorities, and we need to prioritize the people that live here.
That's about as much as I can take it.
Yeah, that's more than enough. So,
Thoughts?
well, my first reaction is I don't know who asked the question, and I don't really care. I'm sure you probably know, but I don't care. I refute his whole question as to, well, nobody explained to me why we're going to war. Okay, if you're not paying attention, if you have no concept of history, if you're that stupid, I don't know what you're doing moderating a
Agreed.
debate. But that being said, as I've said in this podcast before, this attack on Iran was 47 years too late, in my opinion. It's been in the works for a very long time. And the fact that we have just now finally gotten a president who said, you know what, I'm not going to wait for Pearl Harbor. This is what I don't understand is the whole idea that, the parallel between this and World War II is stunning. Because if you go back and look at December 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th of 1941, people were saying these same things. We're not going to war. We're not going to get involved in a European war. We're not going to do any of these types of things. And for the time, I understood. I mean, I understand that they saw what they saw, and they'd come out of World War I. They just didn't want another battle in Europe. Why would we send our boys over there?
Right.
I get it. Then Pearl Harbor came, and we lost some wonderfully strong young men in Hawaii in our Navy and our armed forces, and it fired up this country immediately. The fact that we have allowed the Middle Eastern country, and especially Iran, to just pick away at us, just consistently through surrogates or themselves, just continually pick away at us since they took hostages in
79.
79 it was. Yeah, I was going to say 78, but no, I think it was 70. In 1979, the fact that we've allowed this little pissant country, frankly, to continue to dictate to us what's going to happen is repugnant to me. The fact that we've got a congressional candidate who's out there saying that we should be much more concerned about the gas prices and our jobs and all these type of things. No question. I completely agree.
Right.
The economy needs, but you know what? The first thing we should worry about is the fact that we have a country, that we have life and liberty, that we can actually have the United States of America. And it wouldn't have been Pearl Harbor this time. These lunatics in Iran were getting close to a nuclear bomb. What do you think they would have done with that? First of all, they'd have dropped it on Israel, of course. I mean, Jerusalem would have been, it would have been a glass bowl in Israel. What would our reaction have been at that point? Would we have at that point said, well, it's too bad. How long do we wait before they then drop one or walk one through one of our airports and take out one of our major cities? I don't understand the mindset of individuals who will go out there and say, we're just going to continue with appeasement, because obviously we saw how well that worked with Neville Chamberlain. I mean, we'll just go with appeasement. We'll just say, these people in Iran, they're just misunderstood. They just, they have a problem with Israel. Why are we involved? Blah, 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 blah. The it's a short focus of what could have happened and what could happen to this country because of appeasement with a miserable little country in the Middle East who thinks that they can kick us around and do whatever they want to us. That cannot continue. And when we got close to, I don't care if they were weeks away, years away, they were moving toward a nuclear weapon. I don't care how long it was going to take them. The minute we found out that was the case, that should have stopped.
Yep.
And you don't stop that by dropping pallets of cash on their tarmacs like Obama did. That's not how it works. And so that's my reaction is these people have, I mean, the entire Democratic Party at this point, especially as we look at this particular war, which frankly isn't a war anymore. I mean, we took out their military. You remember General Norman Schwarzkopf in the Iraq War, and I mean, it took what, 4 days for us to wipe out the fourth biggest army in the country or in the world. I mean, that's basically what we did with Iran. I mean, we wiped them out. There's nothing there, and so it's not really a war, but there's still obviously economic impact, and it's these endless wars. How long has this war been going on? 3 months? Are we at 3 months yet? I mean, 6 months. It was 6 months after Pearl Harbor before we got to Midway.
This war has been going on since 1979.
Yes.
And finally, we have a commander-in-chief who wants to end it.
Right. We've engaged. Yes, we finally have engaged and said, you know what? We've tried paying you off. Obama tried paying you off and kneeling to your princes.
One could say Obama funded their nuclear program.
No, it should be said Obama funded their nuclear program as well as some of the weapons they were going to try to drop on us.
Yep.
I mean, there's no question about
their whole drone program, for crying out loud.
Absolutely. I mean, all of that type.
They never had that before Obama.
No. Right. Billions of dollars of United States cash was dropped on the tarmacs in Iran. And that's what was used against us. Fortunately, none of it really had much of an impact because our military is still so far beyond anything they can conceive of that I am disappointed that he didn't go in for regime change. I mean, that's clear from the beginning. That wasn't necessarily his goal. He wanted to make sure they were no longer a threat to the United States. I think as long as that whole Ayatollah structure is in place, they will always be a threat to the United States, and they should be eliminated and eradicated. Yeah. But that wasn't the goal, and he's certainly feeling the pressure to get out because idiots like this think that they're paying too much for gas.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing that I keyed in on when these lunatic Democrats compare the suffering of paying $4 a gallon in gasoline. I'm sorry, suffering, paying, and like you said, I agree. Paying $4 a gallon in gas, it really sucks.
Yep.
I'm not gonna joke about that. It sucks.
Right.
But you know what sucks even worse? You already said it. If a mushroom cloud rises up over Jerusalem,
right,
that would really suck.
Yep.
And these lunatics in the Democrat Party don't care.
Right.
They don't care about world peace as long as they're getting their free lunch. And it drives me out of my mind. Honestly, one of the other things, I spoke about this with a couple of friends and family over the weekend. I marvel at the amount of patience that President Trump has. There's no way I would have that much patience that he has in negotiating with those nut jobs in the what do you call it, the Ayatollah regime, or what is it, whatever you call that form of government, the theological type of a theocracy.
Theocracy, right.
I would wipe out everyone who has any kind of authority in that, do exactly what we did with the Nazis in Germany.
Right.
If you're in power and you fight against us without surrendering, you die.
Right.
If you give up and surrender, you go to prison for the rest of your life.
Right.
Nazism was wiped out of Germany. That is exactly what should happen to these Ayatollahs.
Right. Laws were passed to make sure that Nazism couldn't rise again in Germany.
Exactly. They are just as bad, if not worse, than the Nazis.
Yep.
And they were weeks away from having a nuclear weapon. And these lunatics in the Democrat Party don't care.
Yeah. No, they don't. And again, I emphasize, they will take issue with the fact that, well, they weren't weeks away. They were probably a year away. I don't care. They were moving toward a nuclear weapon.
All the evidence points to weeks away.
Granted, I don't care. These lunatics were moving toward a nuclear weapon. They were trying to develop a nuclear weapon. End of discussion.
Yeah, good point.
Eliminate it. Eliminate that whole regime, eliminate every opportunity that they have. You want to go back to a Shah? Fine. You want to go back to a king? You want to go to free elections? Whatever. But the theocracy that is based in such hatred and lunacy as we see over there, you cannot allow that to be in society. You cannot allow that to be in the world.
And like I said, I marvel at President Trump's patience. He's negotiating with absolute lunatics.
Right.
I could not do that.
Oh, I agree. Yeah. I mean, I like the fact that he is able to spew a little on X or on Truth Social just to, diffuse a little bit. But yeah, he hasn't acted on it. I mean, I'm a much different person. I don't come out and talk about a lot of things. I just do it.
Yeah.
You would have found out after the fact how ticked off I was.
Yeah. I like I said, talking about it with some friends and family over the weekend, it's a good thing I'm not president because we'd own Carg Island right now already
Right.
We would have been in Carg Island.
Yep.
And
in
a lot of it.
In the end, I mean, the question that the moderator said is, what can be done with you in Congress? We know what's going to happen. They're going to impeach immediately. They're going to impeach. If the president is who I hope he is, he'll ignore it. It's like, whatever.
Well, and that's the thing that I mean, marveling at this. They would impeach President Trump, who is by far more patient in the negotiations than many, many other people would ever be.
Right.
He's kind of on their side right now. He's actually trying to get peace over there.
Right.
I would not.
No.
I would not. I would just be like, 47 years, enough is enough.
Right. You're done.
Finished. Yeah.
Yep.
Again, like I said, I would treat them like the Nazis in Germany.
Yep. Wipe
them out.
Correct.
And as we talked about earlier, I watched that movie, Saving Private Ryan. It's unspeakable, the sacrifices that people go through in order to maintain liberty and gain it back from a Nazi Germany in 1940, what was it, 1943, 44, when D-Day happened.
Right.
And these Democrats call it suffering.
Yeah.
That we have to pay $4 a gallon in gasoline.
The greatest generation at this point, 3-4 months into the war, was rationing gasoline, was rationing sugar, rationing milk, rationing everything they had. They were turning in all their rubber. They were doing everything they could for the war effort. We had unified behind a effort to make sure that fascism was eradicated from the world. Why we do not consolidate behind the idea that this theocracy that is going to continue to simply just attack. They're just going to go out and it's not that much different than what we thought the communists wanted to do early on, where they were just going to spread out throughout our world. And we did all we could to rein that in. That was an endless war. It was a Cold War, but it was an endless war. We finally won that one. We bought it. I mean, Reagan bought that win. Good for him.
Just outdid their economy.
Just crushed their economy. And Trump is doing it by just eliminating, their leaders and eliminating their military. And, name me the last war the Democrats fought that they wanted to fight, that they won, that they did anything where they could, other than FDR.
That's the only one.
Exactly. FDR wanted to get us in World War II long before Pearl Harbor.
And one of the ways that FDR did it was by imprisoning all the Japanese Americans here in the United States too.
In Turkey, yeah, that's true.
It's fascinating to me.
I agree.
The people who are so completely ignorant of history,
right,
and completely ignorant of human behavior.
Yeah, right. Human nature. That was going to say completely ignorant of human nature.
Yeah,
it's like, wow, okay, but whatever. Anyway. That's my reaction to the debate that I'm not going to listen to any more of.
I had a feeling this one might fire you up, so I'm glad we had this conversation. I mean, but that is who they want to run against, Derek Van Orden for Congress.
Right.
If those people get into Congress, we talk about this frequently. You taught this to me many, many years ago. Elections have consequences.
Absolutely.
We cannot let these kinds of lunatics in power.
Right. We have a congressman who served the country, who actually was in combat, who put his life on the line for our freedom. Somebody who knows exactly what these ladies who sit in the Concordia ballroom and talk about it have never seen combat. I bet they haven't even watched Saving Private Ryan. But, I mean,
Maybe.
I mean, they have no concept of what it takes to defend this country and defend liberty and defend freedom. They simply want, as you said, their gravy train to continue. That they want to continue to well. They want to continue to make sure that they're paying off their constituents, and of course, providing whatever fraud they need to provide to the Somalis and whoever else is making it in Minnesota and wherever else.
Yeah, they got to give out all those Leering centers around the country.
Right, exactly.
It's maddening. It really is.
It's stunning when you just stack up all of the craziness that we're seeing. It's stunning that there's still a competitive party, but they're not only competitive; they could win. Again, we get what we deserve.
Well, not only that, but I think there's so many different societal things, like you were saying earlier. It's stacking up.
Agreed.
And it's accelerating. So we got to just stand firm. But yeah, that I'm glad we had a conversation about that one, because there's even more I'm not going to bring up now, but oh my gosh.
You know what? We can do that every month. We'll bring up another new.
I might just do that because their primary is in August.
Right.
It'd be interesting to see how this, because right now, what was it? There was another, there was a third person that was in the primary, Rodney something. I don't remember exactly his last name.
Yeah.
But he dropped out, and I can't remember who he endorsed on their side. But it's fascinating to watch. As I said before, this election cycle is the most fascinating one I have witnessed in a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. I keep track of Cook's comments because she's going to be the nominee. I mean, that's going to be the case. So
there's a lot of Emily Burge signs around town, though.
Yeah, I'm sure there are. And there'll be, more and more of that. I don't know her background, but
she's the one I think that's on the Eau Claire City Council.
Oh, yeah. Right. Okay. Rebecca Cook already ran. I mean, her name recognition is out there. She has connections. And for the most part, primaries within parties is popularity contests. It's what we learned, what we needed to know to win a primary, we learned in 5th grade student council. So, it's a popularity contest.
Yeah, it's the popularity.
Yep.
Nice. Well said. Well, and I mean, if we talk about some of the things that going locally here, I got this article. They want to be free. 98% vote to become Village of French Island. And I mean, breaking news just the other day, I think it was Friday, the Department of Administration made it official. It is now the Village of French Island.
Correct. Yeah. And the only thing that could hold it up is lawsuits from La Crosse, which I'm not sure that this mayor will continue down that. Oh, well, I shouldn't say that because I don't think the La Crosse mayor is making any of the decisions down there. But it depends on whether or not their city attorney really wants to push this and go for it. And, how much more tax money he wants to blow on third-party attorneys to try and get this. But the fact is that, as far as democracy is concerned, this is a process that's been going on for 30 years. I mean, as I think I've mentioned before, I introduced a bill in 1996 in the legislature that got all the way up to the point where, well, it must have been later than that because Doyle vetoed it eventually. So it must have been later. But I testified at a incorporation hearing back in 96, 97 and introduced legislation when Doyle was governor and got it through both houses for them to become French Island. And he said, well, that's just not the way the process works. So he vetoed it. And I mean, I don't think he was necessarily wrong. It isn't the way the process should work. But La Crosse from the beginning has always said that French Island, well, the town of Campbell was going to be the city of La Crosse. They were going to annex. And one guy basically stood in the way of that. It was Dan Kapanke. I mean, he was chairman, he was out, he was in and he was out, he was a state senator, all that type of thing. But he has always had the town of Campbell and French Island at his heart. And he has fought for this with a number of other people. He would be the first one to say that, it was a whole team. But to see the results, I mean, I spoke to him the day of the election, and he said, Mike, I'm hoping we can get to 80%. I mean, 80% really makes a statement. I said, Dan, I got to tell you, I think you're going to get to 85. I mean, I think there's a strong enough push to get to 85% of the vote. They came in with 98% of the vote. What was it, like 1,500 to 30? Something like that. It was, I mean, stunning.
98%.
98%. That's not just a comment. That's a mandate.
Yeah.
That is
Well,
screaming
and
from mountaintop.
that was 54% turnout too.
Yeah, right.
Which is, I mean, for a special like that,
Right.
that's almost everyone who votes.
Exactly. Right. It's huge turnout. So I mean, congratulations to Dan Kapanke. Congratulations to the people of French Island. And I will now forever call them French Island, regardless of what the courts try to do.
Right on.
The only thing I asked Dan was, will they have to try this in La Crosse, or can they try this in Dane County? Because if they try in Dane County, you're kind of screwed. Dane County is, I mean, that is a kangaroo. No, kangaroo courts look down on Dane County. I mean, they're just, it's buffoonery everywhere. It's political, as we talked about, it's political corruption.
It's a judicial oligarchy.
They're so politically corrupt that if there's any smell of any kind of Republican or conservative value connected with it at all, they're automatically against it because they don't have a brain in their head. They're simply just consistently ultra liberal. Every one of those judges, and I authored legislation a long time ago that said that no legislator would ever be tried in Dane County again because we can't get a fair trial, and that passed.
Yeah.
We got that signed into law. What I forgot was I didn't extend it to the cabinet. That's the next thing we need to do, is make sure that a Republican cabinet has that same protection, because I mean, that's frankly what you need. You need protection from the judges of Dane County. And it's sad that that's what you have to say in this state, but that's really the case. So if for some reason that has to be tried in Dane County, it will get overturned at a higher court until you get to the Supreme Court. And as we've seen, who knows? I mean, the Supreme Court
the law doesn't matter to them.
It doesn't.
But there is one thing that I wanted to, because this is a great opportunity for us to use one of your euphemisms about elections having consequences in a positive way.
Yes.
The people of the town of Campbell who put a man like Dan Kapanke in charge and gave him authority to continue to stand up to the bullies of La Crosse, that's the consequence of them.
Mm-hmm.
God bless them. I'm like you. The man did an amazing amount of work with a team of, obviously, people to help him out, obviously. But, man, the guy, that is a consequence of having him in a position of power.
A 30-year battle that Dan Kapanke finally won.
And he stood strong through all of it.
Through all of it. Absolutely. And at times where it looked like it was going to get really, really dark.
Well, when you got the city of La Crosse spending, what did they say, $200,000 or something on lawyers?
Right.
That's kind of daunting.
It sure is. You bet. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and they were trying to pick off pieces of Campbell, Hiawatha Islands and all just kind of going in. And it had always been the plan. I mean, from the beginning for La Crosse Sagan. I still expect La Crosse to sue to try and stop this. But in the end, the process, as it's outlined in statute, worked exactly as it's supposed to. The people have spoken. La Crosse should stand down. French Island should be French Island.
Right on. Well said. This has been on my list for a couple of weeks now. Hat Tip La Crosse Tribune, Cole Kinninger down there, actually did a pretty decent job on this.
I understand Cole's a pretty good reporter. I mean, he's pretty balanced.
He's actually doing journalism.
Yeah, good for him.
So good for Tribune, keeping him on the payroll. I mean, they're probably going to lose him because journalists don't last long here.
No, they don't.
But it's La Crosse's e-buses have sat idle for over a year. Why? The city of La Crosse has invested $1.25 million in federal grants and $300,000 of its own money into zero-emission public transportation. But the centerpiece of the project, two $650,000 electric buses, have been out of service since the end of 2024.
Jeez.
And according to city officials, it's unclear when they might return to service. So back to the idea of elections have consequences.
Yeah. No.
The lunatics in the city bought two $650,000 e-vehicles that they can't even use.
Yeah. That's,
How
well,
many potholes would that have fixed?
tell me, yes, agreed. How many roads could that have straightened out? I mean, how
Right.
many different things could have happened there? First of all, the liberal fascination with public transportation, I don't fully understand. I mean, I understand the value of public transportation. Don't get me wrong. I mean, and it's important to a lot of people, but it needs to be a little thought out. Figure it
Yeah.
out, figure out whether or not this is actually what is going to work for people and whether or not this will work for us, whether or not it'll work for the taxpayers. I mean, we often see buses that run around big cities empty, completely empty.
Yep.
I mean, it's just, again, if it were a private business, they would not be able to run that way. They would figure out different schedules. They would figure out times when, geez, these buses just aren't going to run because there's nobody riding them. There would be a lot of different things that would be different.
Or they just sell the buses and hire a couple of Uber drivers.
There you go. Right, right. But in government, and especially in La Crosse, where you can just throw money away at almost whatever you want and run constant deficits, there is no concern. There is no
Right.
problem because we are doing, I mean, the victory for a number of the people down there is that they just bought a zero emission bus. Doesn't matter if it runs. Doesn't matter if it
Just
actually,
so they can feel
right,
good.
right. It's all about it. There's really very little substance to any of this. It's all just their feelings, and
Right.
it's really, I don't know how you function that way, but it's so much emotion driven decision making that has continued. I mean, it gives us the fraud in Minnesota. It gives us buses that don't run here. It gave us that half fast train that we used to call, if you say it quickly, half fast train in Wisconsin. The high speed rail that Doyle was trying to do, that Walker shut down immediately.
Yeah.
And that we're seeing how wise that was when you see what's going on in California, where
Exactly.
again, similar situation. Trains have been, billions have been put into tracks and trains that do not run, that aren't operational.
Well, you asked a very pertinent question, and I have a theory about why the left is so obsessed with transit.
Yeah.
I believe it's because they know when you own your own car, you feel more independent.
Yeah.
They do not want us to feel independent.
Right.
Because that might make us feel independent for all kinds of other things.
Right. Yeah.
Like maybe independent enough to actually follow the Second Amendment and defend ourselves.
Right.
Or, I mean, any number of things.
Or if you're, Starbucks, leave Seattle.
They do not want us to be
Right.
independent.
They don't want us to be independent. They don't want us thinking.
That's my theory. That's why they are so obsessed with public transit.
Yeah.
They want people to be locked into a government program.
Yeah, could be. I mean, again, there are people who can't afford, don't need, don't want to have a car, whatever. And for that purpose, we should have public transportation that actually works. Fine, terrific. I mean, but for the most part, the whole idea of individuals, many individuals who are using public transportation would love to have their own car. They'd love to be able to be autonomous that way. They just can't afford it yet, or they haven't gotten to that point yet.
But like you said, too, being smart about it. And that reminds me, there was the SMART bus, the Scenic Mississippi Area Regional Transit.
Yeah, right.
I think is what the acronym. But regardless, the county decided to dump a bunch of money into that, even though the administration decided it wasn't worth it. There wasn't enough juice for the squeeze.
Right.
But the county board decided to go with it anyway.
Right.
And I was trying to make the case at that time. Again, elections have consequences. I didn't get elected to the county board, so I wasn't able to have a formal conversation about it. But instead of dumping money into all the maintenance and upkeep of a few buses that never get used, why not just hire out a couple of Uber drivers and or a voucher?
Yeah.
Okay, you've got $100 on your Uber voucher for the month, paid for by the taxpayers.
Yeah.
$100 is a lot better than $100,000.
There's a lot of different ways that you could do this. There's no question.
There's ways to be smart.
Yep.
But I think you made a great point. We can be smarter about these things, but only if you have smart people in elected positions.
Right.
Unfortunately, we don't have that in La Crosse County.
No, we don't. The best and brightest have not gone into La Crosse government.
And it's apparently not bad enough yet because people keep voting the same way they've always been voting.
It's La Crosse. They will. I mean, we lost La Crosse. I've said this for a long time. There's not a lot of rational thought there.
I try to make the case on the podcast frequently. what will it take? How bad does it have to get for lacrosse voters to start voting right?
Mhm.
They just keep continuing this
Yeah.
downward slide into a Marxist hellhole.
I think one of the examples will be this November, and we'll see whether or not Amy Klobuchar, who is certainly knee deep in all of the fraud and all of the Medicaid and all the money that's just been completely wasted in Minnesota, whether or not she gets elected governor.
Yeah.
It's I don't think it gets that bad. I think people, again,
Well, even Ilhan Omar is up again for
Right.
Congress,
right. I
and
mean,
she's neck deep in it too.
as we've talked about, but the voters need to hear about this. I mean, you pick up the St. Paul Pioneer Press, you pick up the Lacrosse
point.
Tribune, you're not necessarily, no, the Lacrosse Tribune, I'll give them credit, that this should be outrage. This should be, I'm sure Rick Solom's going to run a real big story on this one. No, not at all. But, it's.
He'll just bring on Democrats who will
Right.
who will justify it.
Exactly. Right. We'll talk about how important it is. Oh,
Uh-oh.
sorry. We'll talk about how important it is to continue these buses. But even and continue the e-bus, even though it's not actually operational.
Yeah, it's not even working. All right, sir. That is now 1 hour and 1 minute.
All right. Pretty good.
Any closing remarks? You know what? We've never talked about this. If somebody wanted to reach out to you and ask more questions or follow-ups,
Sure.
what's the best way to get a hold of you?
I would say, why don't we have them send in emails through your service?
Just head over to cooleyconservatives.com.
cooleyconservatives.com. If there's any comments, anybody wants to get in touch with me, go through cooleyconservatives.com and I will respond right away. I'm sure you'll get it to me right away.
I will.
And I will respond. Be happy.
I love that. Yeah, let's do that.
Matter of fact, it might be fun for us to one time just throw it out there and say, send us comments. We'll read them as you print them out. We'll read. I'll see them for the first time.
And if people really are bold, they could call the hotline I have.
Oh,
985-465-0443. And we'll even play
there you go.
your comments on the air.
Right.
And then address them.
Yeah. That could be a segment of our show is comments or calls that have come in and, issues that people want to bring up. Happy to respond to those.
I think that is a brilliant idea.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Let's do that next time.
Okay.
So 985-465-0443. Call in, leave your voicemail. We'll play it here and address it. Or you can just go to the cooleyconservatives.com. There's all kinds of different ways on there. There's the contact us. There's the Facebooks, the Twitters. They're all there. You can get a hold of us that way too. But I love that idea.
Yeah.
Well done.
That should be fun.
You've earned your keep for another month.
Yes, I earned my pay for the month.
All right. Well, thanks for your time, sir.
Of course, Chris. We'll see you next month.
You bet.
All right.
I want you.